Jai Hind. Vice Admiral Atul Anand, Additional Secretary, Department of Military Affairs. GOC KNK Saberia, General P.T. Matthews, General Anant Narayan, a dear friend, all the distinguished guests and the students and the NCC, I think, yes, they are still here. First of all, I would like to convey my compliments and heartfelt gratitude to Professor Uday Birze and his team of Mysore Lancers Heritage Foundation, who have been conducting this program, this commemoration day program, year after year for several years. And in the morning, we saw how the national spirit and the pride in our country was aroused by the commemoration function that we had in the morning. Now, the subject that has been given to me is very interesting. And I would like to state that the Indian Armed Forces have a very rich heritage. General Matthew mentioned, what is it? Why does the Indian Army ticks? And the Indian Army ticks and always is successful primarily because we are the inheritors of a very proud legacy. A legacy that goes back more than 5,000 years back. A lot of people have this fallacy that we are an offshoot of the British Army. But they fail to understand that Indian Army existed much, much before that. And since we are the proud inheritors of that legacy, I think we have to stand by it, and since we have to stand by it, then we have to win every battle that we get into and every battle that we get engaged in. In the warfare, there are no runners-up. When you enter the battle, you enter the battle to win. And I'm very proud to say that as a senior Indian Army officer, I am also inheritor of that proud legacy. And that is the proud legacy that creates the Indian strategic culture. There was a study done by the Rand Corporation commissioned by the Pentagon that stated that India as a nation lacks strategic culture. About a decade back, there was a study, again another study that was done, which negated and said, no, India has a strategic culture. To all of you who are here today in this hall, I want to reiterate, beyond any reasonable doubt, that India has a strategic culture which dates back to more than 5,000 years back. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata are a blueprint of Indian strategic culture. The Ramayana is a blueprint of an ethical strategic culture in which the ideal ruler, that is Ram, created and ran a Ram Rajya. And I would like to imagine the culture, a strategic culture, in which just because the father has taken a vow and he has to fulfill that vow, the king designate just moves out for 14 years in exile. And the person to whom he hands over Bharat, in due deference to his elder brother, he keeps his khadao and runs the affairs of the state till the time he comes back. Tell me which nation, which country has this kind of a strategic culture or this kind of a culture. I'll give you certain anecdotes from Ramayana. When Ram went into the, has gone on to the exile and he meets Shabri. So, before that Shabri was a disciple of Rishi Matang. And when Rishi Matang was on to his onward journey, so Shabri said, no, I can't stay without you, I have to go with you. So Rishi Matang told Shabri that, look, you will be liberated by none other than the Lord Ram. The Ram will come to liberate you and will come to meet you. So you have to wait. So as a child, Shabri asked, when will Lord Ram come? He says, look, Dasharath is not even married today. So it is going to take a long time, by the time the Lord Ram comes. But he said, he's Lord, so you'd have no idea as to when he comes. He might come the next day itself. So every day, for several years, Shabri would prepare to receive Lord Ram. He would clean the entire thing, she would clean the entire passage, and we'll wait for him. And finally, the day came when Lord Ram appears. So she asked that you have come to, kill and free the world from the Asus and kill Ravan, who was one of the most powerful ruler at that point of time. So what Lord Ram says? He says, that can be done by even Lakshman. He says, if Lakshman, sort of tightens the Pratyancha from the toe of his left feet, that is good enough. That arrow would be good enough to kill Ravan. I am not here to kill. And Lakshman, a lot of people are not aware of the importance of Lakshman. जब आप अपने मन को लक्ष्य पर केंद्रित कर देते हो, when you focus your mind onto the aim, then you become Lakshman. A person who could just, a warrior who could just put one line for Sita to ensure the safety of Sita, which Ravan, one of the most powerful king of that time, could not even cross. Just one line he could not even cross. You can imagine how powerful that warrior would be. Most of you possibly may not be aware that he didn't sleep for 14 years because he had to protect Ram and Lakshman. He didn't sleep for 14 years. And when Ma Nidra Devi used to come, he used to put his arrow and this thing, and Ma Nidra Devi used to say that you are in a Manav Yoni, you have to sleep. You are entitled, that entitlement is there. Either you sleep or you give that sleep entitlement to somebody. Whom he gave that sleep entitlement to? His wife Urmila. And Urmila slept. But Urmila woke up only to take care of, the in-laws, and then she would sleep for most of the time. Again, another anecdote to prove how profound is our strategic culture. Just before invading Lanka, the deity whom Ram used to pray is Shiva. And he had to pray to Lord Shiva before he sets onto one of the most important major campaign. Now in the jungle, where is Shivling and where is, the person who can do the rituals? So Lord Hanuman is sent to Kailash to pick up the Shivling, and a message is sent to Ravan. Ravan is a Pandit, is Mahapandit. So a message was sent to Ravan that there is a yak and there is, this which is being done, and done for what purpose? To invade Lanka. And since you are the only Purohit or Acharya in this entire area, you are requested to please come and do the honors. And lo and behold, this is what Indian culture is all about. Ravan agrees. And not only agrees, he knows that no yajna and no Rudrabhishek is complete without the better half. He also gets Mata Sita with him, and that's how the yajna was done. The two Shivling that were got by Lord Hanuman, unfortunately, because he got two of them, he got a little delayed. And by that time, the time, which had to begin, the Rudrabhishek has to begin, had gone past. So Rudrabhishek started with Mata Sita, with that Shivling which is there. And the Rudrabhishek was done on that Shivling which was constructed out of the sand. Out of the two Shivling, in fact, Lord Hanuman was very angry when he came, and he said that he has not been of much use to Lord Ram at this important time. So he was dragging both the Shivling with his tail, and Lord Shiva put his hand on his head and he got half underground. So when you go to Rameshwaram today, you will see Lord Hanuman's Murti, which is half inside and only half up. There is a shivling next to it, which is the actual shivling that was got by him from Kailash. The other shivling is next to the main deity. That is where it is. And while he did the Rudrabhishek, Lord Ram recited the Rudrashtakam. In the morning, I invoked the goddess. You cannot invoke the goddess without invoking Lord Shiva. So I would invoke the Lord Shiva by reciting the Rudrashtakam. Namamish Mishana Nirvana Rupam Vibhum Vyaktam Brahma Veda Surupam Nijam Nirgunam Nirvikalpam Niriham Chidakash Makash Vasam Bhajeham Nirakar Momkar Moolam Turiyam Girajana Goti Misham Girisham Karalam Mahakal Kalam Kripalam Gunagari Sansar Param Natoham Tusharadri Sankash Gauram Gambhiram Manobhut Koti Prabhashri Shariram Swan Moli Kallolini Charu Ganga Lasad Bhal Bhalendu Kanthe Bhujanga Chalat Kundlam Bhusuretram Vishalam Prasanna Nanam Nilkantham Dayalam Mragadesh Charma Maram Mundmalam Prem Shankram Sarvanatham Bhajami Prachandam Prakashtam Pragalgam Paresham Akhandam Ajam Bhanukoti Prakasham Kreshul Nirmul Namshul Pani Bhajeham Bhavani Pati Bhavgamyam Kalatit Kalyan Kalpantakari Sadasa Janananda Data Purari Chidananda Sandoho Moha Phari Prasida Prabhoban Mathari Nayavad Umanat Padar Vindam Bhajanti Loke Pareva Naranam Na Tava Sukham Jarajan Dukho Ke Tatat Pamanam Prabhoi Pahi Apan Namami Shambhu Rudrashtak Midam Proktam Viprain Hartoshe Ye Pathanti Nara Bhaktya Tesham Shambhu Prasidati. This is Rudrashtam. Why am I reciting this? It is just to underline the rich strategic culture which came to fore in the Battle of Haifa. For a very long time we were subjugated. This is a transformational battle. The Battle of Haifa primarily was fought because the Germans and the Ottomans wanted to take control and seize control of Suez Canal. And for that it was important to capture the Sinai Peninsula. So in the campaign of Palestine and the Sinai Peninsula, the British were pitted against the might of the Ottoman Empire and the Germans. And the Haifa is the most important because Haifa is bang on the Mediterranean Sea, and Haifa had to be captured so that the Britishers could continue their campaign in the Sinai Peninsula against the Ottomans and the Germans. Hence, this battle was the most pivotal and the most important. And as it happened, this responsibility was given to 15 Cavalry Brigade. And 15 Cavalry Brigade had under it 3 cavalry regiments. The Mysore Lancers, the Hyderabad Lancers, and the Jodhpur Lancers. And the cavalry charged with spears and swords against the might of the modern equipment, that is the artillery guns and the automatic machine guns, and was victorious. Only 8 martyred and about 32 injured, and they captured more than 2,000 Ottomans and the Germans. This battle was a turning moment in the history of the First World War. It paved the way for the successful end of the First World War and in the victory which was handed over to the Allies. More than 1 million Indian soldiers participated. 69,000 of them were martyred and 66,000 of them were injured. This is the might of the Indian army over which the Britishers rode and the Allies won. The Battle of Haifa is also equally important because it reinforced that Atmagyan, the pride and the confidence in our own valor and in our own bravery, that the Indian troops under the Indian leaders, under the Indian military leaders, can achieve any impossible task. And that kind of a confidence reverberated in the Indian heartland, where it gave an impetus to our freedom movement. The Battle of Haifa also is instrumental, that it actually started the end of the strong Ottoman Empire, which fell by 1922. And it was so important that the Britishers realized the valor, the bravery, and the leadership capabilities of Indian military leaders. Before that, there were no Indian military officers in the regiment. These risalas were the state forces, and that is why they were led by the state officers. But after that, the Britishers started, the officers started getting inducted in the British Indian Army also. Battle of Haifa is also very important because after the fall of Ottoman Empire, it led to creation of several sovereign countries, including Israel, Jordan, Syria, Saudi Arabia. All these countries were formed after the fall of Ottoman Empire. Now, what are the lessons? I think one of the most important lessons is the pride in our own culture and strategic culture. I think one of the most important things today is that it's not that India lacks a strategic culture. I think India lacks the understanding and the application of its strategic culture. And that is because we are not connected to our roots. It's extremely important today when we are marching towards Viksit Bharat 2047 that we get connected to our roots. The small dance performance that you saw, each mudra, each bhav and bhangima of the face, it is so much, there is so much of culture in this, there's so much of richness of culture that you see. And we are not connected with that culture. I think it's time for us to redeem and to get connected with our culture and to have confidence in us. Otherwise, most of the time we think we cannot do this. We can't make good roads. We can't discover or we can't invent certain critical technologies. I think it is time that we have confidence in ourselves, and that's why it's important to commemorate the Battle of Haifa year after year, to reinforce and to reinstill this sense of pride and confidence in us Indians. The second strategic lesson is that today, as Op Sindoor said, that the battle would be a battle of technology, but it is always being an infantry officer. The technology can go from here to there, but it is the man behind the machine that will always win. If you see the armies the world over, I think the best human resource and the best soldiers are Indian soldiers. We have proved our mettle in our 5,000-year-old history, in the First World War, in the Second World War, in every war after independence, post-independence. The third is the logistics is the most important thing. Everything is driven by the capture of Haifa port was absolutely important. Maintenance of the aim that the Haifa had to be captured, the courage, the motivation, the leadership. And in the morning, as the Vice Admiral Atul Anand mentioned, one of the important lessons is adaptability. Given whatever may be the given situation, this is what is the given situation. What can you do? So in that given situation, the cavalry only had the spears and the swords, and the opponent had the latest gadgetry, the latest equipment, that is the artillery guns, as well as the automatic machine guns. But the offensive spirit, the confidence in their ability, the camaraderie, the esprit de corps, these are the qualities that won the Indian Army one of the most courageous victory in the annals of military history. Another important facet is that you have to fight for righteousness, which is called as dharma. Sanskrit is a beautiful language, but when you translate dharma in Sanskrit means the model code of conduct, the righteousness. It is not religion. You know, Manusmriti says there are 10 attributes of dharma. I will not explain because of lack of time. Dhrati, Shama, Damostem, Shochamindre, Nigrah, Dhir, Vidya, Satyam, Akrodho, Dashkam, Dharma, Lakshanam. ये धर्म के 10 लक्षण है. If you adhere to them, then you are in accordance with dharma. So all in the history of the warfare in Indian subcontinent, whenever Indians have fought, we have fought on the side of dharma. And before I end, there is a beautiful small shloka which says, Dharma rakshati rakshitaha. If you protect dharma, the dharma will protect you. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much. I would like to call upon the stage Dr. Sharan Srinivasan and Dr. P.C. Deshmukh sir to honor our great speaker.